Ah yes, I can already hear your mumbling. Oh great, another clickbaity video telling me some stupid EQ or compression hack that probably won't even make a real difference in my song like every other YouTuber. And frankly, that offends me, because now that you said that, I feel personally obligated to make sure that you walk away from this video thinking, holy crap, how is that free? And then you'll feel like you owe me money, to which I'll say, no, I'm good, thanks though. All I want is for you to actually watch this video and then do what it says, because when you implement real techniques, they actually work. Not like those mid-side EQ hack solves all your problems tips videos where, let's be real, you probably can't even hear the difference. So you cry yourself to sleep, and then at 1 a.m. you buy another $29 plugin thinking that'll fix your life too. Spoiler, it won't. You should be ashamed of yourself. But when you implement what I'm gonna be showing you, you're gonna be better than 99% of bedroom producers, or your money back, and don't worry, it's free. Let's begin. Here's what you need to understand. Professional producers are not guessing. We don't wake up and say the prayer, please Lord, don't let me suck today, like producer Timmy does. And there's a reason for this, because real producers understand that building a killer production is a process of building blocks. Every block that you place impacts the one above it and below it. And if you've got one weak block in the middle, congratulations, you just built a Jenga tower and it's gonna fall down. Now, what bedroom producers don't realize is that they are stacking weak blocks the entire way. And then when the whole thing collapses, they point at the block on the very top that's mixing and mastering, and they say, that's why my track sucks. And this is like blaming the top block in Jenga for the whole thing falling down. Dude, it's not the top block's fault, it's the blocks in the middle and the bottom. So what we must start with is recognizing that music production is a skill of block building. Every block impacts the ones around it. So this means that when we record an instrument, the quality of performance, the quality of the instrument, the quality of the sound, and the quality of the arrangement, in other words, how we place it around other elements, that all works together to build blocks. And when you have one weak point in the middle, like a guitar part that is performed with rhythmic mistakes, like rushing or being behind, then that becomes a weak point that you will carry with you the entire way through the process. And most bedroom producers, they have things that they like doing. They like building a drum groove or adding keyboard parts or recording vocals or whatever it is, and then they fail to prioritize the things they don't necessarily love because it's not fun. Now, this is a huge problem, because when you focus on only the things you like to do, then you wind up with all of these weak blocks scattered along the way that combine to create something that does not sound professional. Now, when you stop to think about music production being a process of block building, it's going to change the entire way that you consider building a song from the ground up. So, what are the pieces, you may ask? What are these blocks? How do we build them, and how do we prioritize, and how do I know I'm making good decisions? Well, we need to start by understanding the process of making a song. And when we begin making a song, we must start with having a vision. This is something the vast majority of producers, they just don't do. They don't stop to consider, what do I want this song to be? What is the vibe? What kinds of sounds do I want? How do I want the vocals to sound? These are vision questions. And most producers, they just open a project and start throwing crap in and then wonder why it feels non-cohesive, like the pieces don't even fit together. That's because you are not starting with a vision. You're not painting a mental picture of what the song is before you begin. It's really hard to make a great song without considering what the song is supposed to be before you begin. Like, imagine saying, Nathan, I'm gonna paint a picture. And it's like, great, like what kind of picture? And you say, I don't know, just whatever happens, happens. Saying I'll just figure it out as I go is like walking into a tattoo shop and saying, surprise me. Don't do that. That's a terrible way of approaching it. But that is exactly what producers do. So we have to start with a vision. And that vision is gonna answer questions. Questions like, how do I want the chorus to sound? How do I wanna make verse 2 different from verse 1? What's the high point of the song? What's the low point of the song? Because if you can't even begin to consider those questions, it's gonna be like throwing darts in pitch dark after you got spun in a circle 10 times and then you get frustrated that you missed the target. Like, bro, that's just stupid. Don't do that. After you have a vision, you can finally get started with making some music. And this is where we start to put those pieces together, where we are finding sounds and putting together an arrangement. Now, here are the most important things you must know. That if you just know this, you will be ahead of 90% of bedroom producers. First, sound choice is more important than mixing. Stop thinking you can find crappy sounds and then expect to just slap on some plugins to make it sound amazing. That is not gonna happen. And then you'll be questioning your entire existence because it didn't work, and you'll be blaming some YouTuber for saying serial compression was the answer to all of your problems. Sorry, Timmy, that just isn't true. Your focus in the beginning is first finding sounds that fit your vision, that are also really good sounds, right? Now, Nathan, you may ask, how do I find good sounds? I love that question. Very astute of you to ask, Timmy. Now, the answer is simple, but hard. You need a reference. Yes, reference. Not at the end, like some people tell you, like, oh, like reference when you mix. No, no, no. The entire way through the process, you are going to be referencing songs songs that share the same vision that you have. Now, this is the real secret to sound choice. You're not gonna magically wake up next Monday with superhuman powers of excellent sound choice because you saw an Instagram producer do a speed beat video. They're usually fake, by the way. I'm sorry. You have to actually train your ears to know what a good sound is, what characteristics qualify as good. You can't just expect to pull a rabbit out of the hat every once in a while because you got lucky. Now, I know what sounds work because I've spent enormous amounts of time analyzing and learning from what sounds great already. And then our brains are really good at doing a lot of the heavy lifting as we train it to know what to listen for. When you reference great songs early and frequently and all the time as you create, you're gonna be hearing things like, oh wow, this kick drum has a lot of top end cutting through on my reference. And being the smart guy that you are now, that you're hearing my words, you'll find a kick that already has those qualities instead of thinking you can find a sub kick and then just EQ 23 dB at 7K. Buddy, you don't need an EQ, you need therapy at that point. So find a kick that already has that, and you just save yourself a massive headache down the road. Oh, and your song is gonna sound better before you even start mixing because of it too. Crazy, darn near magical. Now imagine for a moment that you do that all the way through for every sound. You're choosing amazing sounds and arranging them based on those killer references you found, and it turns out that when you are making intelligent decisions like that with references, then you are well on your way to being better than Johnny Boy in his mom's basement. So great, we have killer sounds. Now what, Nathan? Well, now that we've chosen great sounds, we have to actually get great performances. Yes, performances. The one thing producers love being completely average about and then wonder why their music sounds cheap. Timmy, I want you to hear me. Performance is music. You cannot have music without performance. And if you have killer sounds but very average performances, I hate to be that guy, but your songs won't be very good. And you definitely won't be better than 99% of bedroom producers. So stop blaming me for not living up to the promises of this video if you don't actually do it. You actually need to lay down awesome performances. Okay, so seriously, all jokes aside, this is actually a huge issue that I've seen over and over for the past 2,000 producers that we've worked with in the past 5 years. This happens way more than you think. And a lot of producers, they don't even realize that their performances are not amazing. So what you need to understand is what makes a great performance, and then you can actually evaluate your own performances, your own songs to figure out, okay, am I actually getting good performances or not? So the very first part about great performances is that great performances are in time. This is being on the grid and accurate. Now, you're gonna need to quantize and edit your materials, whether it's with MIDI or real-time audio like you're actually recording the microphone. And if you don't do this, then you're gonna be wondering why it doesn't sound as accurate as your references. Oh yes, you're still referencing, Timmy. Now, if you're gonna be that boomer in the comments screaming about how editing is cheating and blah, 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 sorry to cut you off, Grandpa. I've been in real studios, I have music on the radio and TV, you probably don't, and I'm just gonna save us some time here. And I'm just gonna tell you, every pro producer in the last 20 years does this, so can you just not leave that comment? I mean, or you can, you just look really ignorant. Your call. Now, this should go without saying that great performances mean correct notes as well. I'm just assuming you're smart enough to know that. The second part of great performance is expression and dynamics. You need to perform like an actual freaking human being, or else your stuff is gonna sound robotic, cheap, and lifeless. Please stop copy pasting your MIDI that is all the same velocity. That right there is a great way of guaranteeing your performances sound more bland than chicken without salt. Expression and dynamics are where the real magic in performance exists, okay? So if you are playing chords on the piano like this, don't do that. Instead, did you hear how much better that sounds? Come on. It's like, oh wow, imagine if you had that kind of expression in every single track you recorded, Timmy boy. Your songs would be darn right Mona Lisa in musical form. So, I hear songs all the time with vocals that sound like the singer is less alive than a dead goldfish, guitars rushing, drums sounding like velocities are maxed at 127 for every single note. And then the producer is literally saying, Nathan, why isn't my mix good? Good Lord. So now you know how to have vision, how to pick good sounds, how to have great performances, and now you need to know about this really cool thing called arrangement. Now, this is one of the most important parts of producing music, and if you do everything right up until now, you are well on your way to being a stallion, ready to win the race. But you aren't there yet, Timmy. Oh no, because if you mess up this arrangement thing, you're gonna be back to crying yourself to sleep, and you're gonna be out $290 plus tax from 10 more $29 plugins that'll give you buyer's remorse a day later. Now, arrangement is simply answering 3 questions. What, when, and what is it doing? What sound are you using? Great. When is it happening? In time. Like, is it the verse? Is it the chorus, the bridge? And then what is that sound actually doing? Is it like just plopping out chords? Is it arpeggiating it? Is it plucking things? Is it power guitar chords? You feel me? And if the answer to all three questions are the same throughout the song, then you're gonna pretty much have a boring arrangement like every time. So you have a piano, awesome. It's in verse 1, great. And it's playing block chords. Classic, right? Now, when we swap that second question, which is the when, okay? Now we have the what and what is it doing, then we should have different answers for either the sound or what that thing is doing, okay? So let's go through an example here. You have a piano, right? Sweet. Verse 2, it's different than verse 1. And then block chords, incorrect. This is a classic case of just doing the same freaking thing throughout the entire song and then wondering, like, bro, why is it boring? Also, for the love of daisies, please stop copy pasting everything from verse 1 and then verse 2 and then be like, what do you mean it sounds the same? Ugh. Now, am I saying this can literally never work to have the same thing happening in verse 2 like block chords? No, I'm not. I'm exaggerating just a little bit. But the point here is that this becomes a good way to identify whether or not you're making good arrangement moves in a way that doesn't feel like you're just, again, throwing darts in the dark at the wall after being spun around. Don't do that because someone's gonna get hurt, okay? If you can answer these three questions in a way that is changing and manipulating over time, then boom, you are literally already ahead. But I'm not done with my wisdom, Timmy. Not even close, because you might answer those questions just fine, but still wind up with a song that sounds muddier than a golden retriever jumping in a mud hole, okay? And here's why. Music is not just sounds in time, like doing stuff, right? When we make arrangement choices, we're also working with pitch, AKA frequency. Low notes, mid-high notes, high notes. What a lot of producers do is answer these three questions and think it's awesome because, hey, I answered Nathan's questions and they're changing, right? But then we find out their track is insanely messy and muddy because everything got loaded in the same frequency or pitch spectrum. You got the piano playing chords right here, right? Guitar doing a riff, same octave right here. Synth chords blasting out, same octave right here. And then the vocals, yeah, throw that in there too. Also competing. Timmy, you need to take a chill, brother. That's no way to make a song. Instead, you need to spread it out. Like, we have a lot of notes to work with. Have you ever looked at a piano? There's a lot of notes on a piano. We have a lot of notes. So what if the piano chords are right here, right? And then the guitar is a little bit higher, and then the synth is a little bit higher up here, right? And then the vocals have a snug little pocket to exist in where they aren't feeling like their eyeballs are popping out because of how tight a fit it is. When we build great arrangements, we're thinking about the space a sound takes up and how it relates to other sounds. So if your sounds are constantly fighting for space, that's going to be a huge pain in the neck to fix. This is how my rough mixes already sound great because I act as though mixing does not exist when I produce. Say this with me. Act as if mixing doesn't exist when you produce. Boom, magic. So instead of saying, I need more brightness, let's slap on an EQ, you should start by saying, I need more brightness, maybe I should find a sound that has more brightness. And then you're gonna go see if you can find some sounds that have more brightness, right? EQ can only do so much and it's only gonna add more of what is already there. So if you have sounds that are really dark, then the easier and more powerful solution is to go change the sound or layer a sound that has more brightness to complement what you have going on. Or maybe bump it up an octave. And that can also do some wild magic. Now, when you do this, you'll be amazed at how much better your songs can be before mixing. And it means you'll have mix sessions that don't take 10 plugins on every track because you feel it's necessary because of how bad it sounds. Timmy, my guy, I'm trying to help you here. You don't need to do that anymore. I'm also sorry there's no refund policy on the plugins, by the way. That sucks. And this gets us to mixing, and what most producers do is binge YouTube videos, buy courses, and try learning mastering before producing, think that is the magic pill. But I'm gonna make a little educated guess. If you made it this far in the video, none of that has worked for you. And here's the thing, if you approach producing like I've taught you so far, you'll get to this point and realize, wow, my songs already sound pretty dang good. Thanks, Nathan. You're welcome. And from here, the most important things you have to know about mixing are as follows. First, the fader is the most powerful and important tool in your entire tool belt. Now, I know this video has been dripping with sarcasm and some humor. I want to push pause on that for a second because I need you to understand how important this is. If the first thing that you are doing is reaching for plugins like EQ, compression, reverb, delay, saturation, and stereo widening tools, then you're going to be fighting your mix the whole way. The first thing you need to do is work out volume and automation. And amateurs, they just don't do this. And the promise I made to you was getting you better than 99%, right? So here's the rub. The reason they don't do this is because it's boring and it doesn't feel exciting. But I promise you, if there is one takeaway regarding mixing, please make it this. Automation is the true magic bullet to mixing. I know so many people are like, this pro tip, this pro hack, this plugin, this, whatever, here's the secret. No. Automation is the true magic bullet to mixing. Now, this is how we tell the listener what to listen 4. Every song I mix needs automation. Here are some screenshots of what I'm talking about. I'm automating vocals to make sure they pop right. I'm automating instruments to make sure those cool moments stand out when they need to. I'm even automating the instruments down that need to get out of the way. I'm also automating my delays and my reverbs to make sure that it stays interesting and unique and entertaining for my listener throughout the whole thing. Because that's kind of the whole point of this, right? Like, we want our listeners to be entertained. You get my point? I'm automating a lot. Now, I just did a coaching call last week with our mentorship students, and this came up on 2 separate songs. And I demonstrated with their songs what happens when you automate things and you're more intentional and you're a little bit more, even, dare I say it, aggressive with the automation. And it was like a light bulb moment for them to see it actually get played out. It's like, wow, that actually makes a much bigger difference than they think it does. All I did was use volume automation. Like, that's it. So if there's one thing I am begging you to do, it's actually prioritize the fader in automation. A reason why so many don't do this is because there's this underlying assumption that it can't be that easy. Can't be that easy. And you're right, it's not that easy, because it turns out that volume automation is a little tricky too, to be able to know how far to push things, but it is that easy. It's one of those easy, hard things. It's easy to say, it's hard to apply. And if you do everything right before this point, trust me, it becomes much, much easier. Now, the second thing is that the majority of processing power should be directed towards vocals. Vocals are one of the only things that you just cannot get sounding right without processing. We're talking EQ, de-essing, usually a fair bit of compression. This is going to depend a little bit on the style. But if you can nail everything that we talked about so far, then vocal processing is where most of your plugin moves are going to happen. Now, this is a screenshot right here of what my typical plugin chain looks like. So it's not insanely complicated, but it does have the most plugins compared to all the other tracks in my sessions in most cases. If you take nothing else from this, build strong blocks, reference constantly, prioritize performance, get killer arrangements, and automate like your life depends on it. If you do that, then congratulations, you're already better than 99% of bedroom producers. Now, one of the biggest areas that producers struggle with is in vocal production, nailing vocals, from everything from performance to comping to editing to tuning to all of that, right? I made a full course right here on YouTube completely for free where I go from recording vocals all the way to final mix. You can watch it right here. It's literally 4 hours and I don't hold anything back. I'll see you there.